There have been many rumors as to why CPS showed up at the resilient Jenkins motel room doorstep. In one of Stephanie's recent videos, people are saying that if you stop the video, you can see that one of Stephanie's daughters has a bald spot on her head. So this is the photo that people are referring to.
Y'all are about to freaking hate me, and I'm so sorry. I cannot believe that literally right after I said I was not going to talk about this family anymore, I was going to see the most out-of-pocket, sad. Drew got another girl pregnant. And one of Stephanie's daughters literally has a bald spot in her head. A bald spot. When I seen that pop up, oh my God.
Imagine opening TikTok video meant for exclusive subscribers, only to see not playful children or happy family moments, but instead an 8-year-old girl, her head tilted slightly to the side, exposing a raw, undeniable patch of missing hair that made her look as if she were balding. And this wasn't an illness called Ali or a hairstyle gone wrong, but a visible, heartbreaking symptom of what many now believe to be neglect and emotional stress, so deep it had physically manifested on the child's head. The shocking part is not just the missing hair, but the reality it reveals. That in the middle of the endless chaos of Stephanie Jenkins' motel lifestyle, her children's suffering is no longer hidden in words or whispers. It is now written on their bodies, undeniable proof of what months of stress, neglect, and chaotic parenting have carved into their young lives. The moment lingers like a warning siren, leaving viewers not just unsettled, but horrified at the permanence of damage that is now unfolding in front of millions of eyes.
Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, yeah. Mickey! Oh, it's a baby! He's so fluffy. Mermaids! Mommy.
The case before us is not of Stephanie Jenkins, a mother of 5, who has fashioned herself into a TikTok persona under the name Resilient Jenkins. A woman whose followers once viewed her as a struggling but strong mother, surviving against all odds after leaving an unstable marriage and navigating financial hardship. For a time, she embodied the narrative of triumph, a single mother raising children while building an online audience who cheered for her resilience and admired her fight to overcome personal battles. To many, she was a symbol of hope, someone who showed that life's toughest blows could be softened with strength, determination, and community support.
Mother flipping frustrating when you've got more than one especially coming at you like, hey mom, can I do this? Hey mom, do this. Mom, go make me dinner. You're in the kitchen. Okay, I'm in the kitchen making dinner. But then they come at me with, mom, the cat puked, come pick up the puke. Mom, I just dropped this. Mom. And it's like, bitch, who the fuck is Stephanie anymore? I don't even know.
But over time, that carefully crafted image began to crack. As months turned into years, and as live streams became her daily ritual, viewers started to notice troubling inconsistencies. The laugh was thinner, the smiles more forced, the children more restless, and the tension between Stephanie and Drew, her partner, her co-star, and her greatest source of chaos, grew impossible to ignore. Instead of resilience, what the audience began to see was a woman exploiting her own household dysfunction for attention and profit. Instead of care, there was a spectacle. Instead of stability, there was chaos. The charges are heavy. Neglect, keeping 5 children confined in a cramped motel room for half a year without stability, structure, or adequate space to thrive. Exploitation, turning her children's private tears, fights, and needs into monetizable content broadcast to strangers. Enabling dysfunction, standing beside you, the same man whose repeated cheating and erratic behavior fueled much of this turmoil, while demanding her children normalize the chaos as part of life. And finally, child maltreatment. Not a vague accusation, but one now revealed in the visible toll on her daughter's body, on the toddler's food-hoarding behaviors, and the eldest child's weary shoulders as she is forced into responsibilities no child should carry.
Stephanie Jenkins is a narcissist. The fact that she's trying to defend her talking to her kids crazy in the video that she uploaded without putting the voiceover over it so you can hear how she really talks to them behind the scenes, saying that I get overstimulated, you don't understand what I go through behind closed doors. Where's your kids' feelings in this? I'm hearing a whole bunch of me. You're overstimulated. You think your kids aren't? You think your kids aren't overstimulated living in a hotel room and having to change the room every 28 days and having no stability?
Exhibit A. In Stephanie's subscriber-only video, Her daughter is shown with a visible bald spot, the kind of raw exposure that strips away every excuse a parent might try to. There was no flattering filters to mask the truth, no playful background sounds to distract the viewers, just missing hair that could not be explained. The child appeared deeply withdrawn, her body language stiff and hesitant, her head slightly tilted as though she knew the patch existed and instinctively wanted to shield it from the audience. But in the end, the camera captured what stress had already carved into her fragile body. That tilt of the head was more than a gesture. It was a plea of invisibility, a child's subconscious attempt to hide evidence of her own unraveling. Medical professionals and trauma specialists agree that children under immense stress often manifest their pain through physical symptoms. Hair loss is one of the most common, sometimes triggered by a condition called telogen effluvium, where stress forces hair follicles into a resting phase, leading to sudden shedding. In even more severe cases, children develop trichotillomania, the compulsive urge to pull one's own hair as a way to regain control or relieve unbearable tension. Psychosomatic illnesses, stomach aches, headaches, chronic fatigue also appear when a child cannot process or escape. To see any of these in an 8-year-old is alarming, but to witness visible baldness in such a young girl is a signal of profound and ongoing distress, not a fleeting bad day or a child phase. This little girl was seen with her head tilted and a visible patch in the middle of her head. She clearly had a chunk of hair missing. The analysis here is devastating and undeniable. When a child cannot find the words to articulate the depth of her pain, her body becomes the messenger, speaking in symptoms that adults can no longer ignore. Hair falling out is not a superficial cosmetic issue. It is evidence of chronic, unaddressed stress that has invaded her most basic biological systems.
Y'all are about to freaking hate me, and I'm so sorry. I cannot believe that literally right after I said I was not going to talk about this family anymore, I was going to see the most out-of-pocket, sad. Drew got another girl pregnant. And one of Stephanie's daughters literally has a bald spot in her head. A bald spot. When I seen that pop up, oh my God. The bald spot is so huge. Like somebody literally like yanked it out of her head. Stephanie, did you do that? Did you do that to your baby? And then you have the nerve to get on here and cry in front of your phone. And I do not like to be the type of person that is like, you don't deserve your children. Your children need taken away from you. But that, somebody needs to do something, not just talk. Somebody needs to do something.
This reality is not new in Stephanie's household. It mirrors a troubling pattern that followers have seen before. Once Stephanie neglected Milo, the cat, his untreated skin condition left him bald in places and visibly frail. Rather than address the issue, she chose concealment, keeping him off camera until rescue exposed the truth. The echoes are chilling. Concealment, neglect, silence, and only exposure once the damage is too obvious to deny. Now, that cycle has repeated itself, but the stakes are unimaginably higher. This time, the victim is not a pet, but her own daughter, a child who should have been protected, not sacrificed to the same neglectful cycle. Exhibit B, the donut incident. Months earlier, the same daughter expressed what should have been the most ordinary and harmless childhood desires: to go out for donuts. This was not a tantrum thrown in frustration, nor was it an entitled demand for something extravagant. It was a quiet, hopeful request for a small indulgence, a momentary slice of joy that children all over the world experience without hesitation. In the suffocating routine of the motel life, even the suggestion of stepping out for something as simple as donuts represented freedom, fresh air, and the chance to feel like a child again, rather than a prisoner of circumstance. Stephanie and Drew, however, rather than finding a way to say yes, or at the very least, providing their daughter with reassurance of comfort in their refusal, chose to crush that fragile request with cutting words.
Just asking where are we going to get the donuts?
I told you. When are you going to get used to being disappointed? It's going to have to be you or me who go get him later. He don't make his choice. He's not going to take you.
What?
I'm sorry. I'm tired of that shit too. I'm tired of him saying he's going to do stuff for my kids. And then he just, oh, maybe then, maybe that. Disappointment, disappointment. Yo, we up in this motel homeless and you can't just take your daughter to a freaking store to get some donuts when you told her you were going to do it?
Get used to disappointment. The cruelty lay not just in the denial of donuts, but in the deliberate decision to frame disappointment as the girl's destiny, as if joy and fulfillment were luxuries she should never expect. Parents often carry the weight of teaching children resilience, but resilience should not come at the cost of consistent invalidation or humiliation. She wanted to go to the store to get donuts, and both Drew and Stephanie refused, telling her to get used to disappointment. This single exchange now echoes with haunting weight. When considered in isolation, it could be brushed aside as harsh but fleeting moment of parenting. Yet when placed alongside the later image of the bald patch, the memory becomes almost unbearable, its significance amplified. The girl's longing for donuts was not just about food, it was about being seen, being valued, being allowed to experience happiness within an otherwise bleak environment. The refusal was not just a no, but a lesson delivered with a chilling finality, that her desires were unworthy of accommodation. And so, when paired with the physical evidence of stress, the weight grows darker still. A child who is consistently told that her needs are irrelevant, who lives in confined space where parental arguments are constant background noise, begins to internalize hopelessness. She learns to stop asking. She learns to retreat inward. She learns disastrously that hope is a futile exercise. This emotional resignation does not remain invisible. It manifests outwardly. The bald patch is not an isolated condition, but the body's scream, the echo of countless small dismissals like the donut incident, each moment layering onto the last until the pressure becomes unbearable. What might seem trivial to outsiders, a denial donut, a quick dismissal, becomes monumental in the mind of a child who is already drowning in neglect. It is the cumulative effect that breaks them, not just the single event. These seemingly minor refusals stack up like bricks, building a wall between the child and a sense of safety or love until eventually her body tells the truth her words cannot. And that is why the donut incident stands as one of the most revealing moments in this case. It exposes not only the carelessness of Stephanie and Drew's response, but also the quiet, devastating way neglect burrows into the soul of a child, transforming what should have been a sweet memory into a scar that lingers both in heart and body. Exhibit C. Viewers began noticing, almost with a sense of quiet unease, that Stephanie's middle daughter was appearing less and less in recent videos. Once she could be seen casually moving across the background, sometimes playing with a toy, sometimes drifting near her siblings. Her presence felt ordinary and unremarkable. But slowly, her image faded. Her footsteps in the background went unheard, and her laughter, if it was ever there, stopped reaching the audience. The child who had once blended into the edges of Stephanie's content had now almost completely vanished. The only glimpses that remained were short, carefully chosen snippets that seemed placed deliberately, as if to prove she still existed, without showing too much.
A lot of us have seen this video of Bella, Stephanie's second daughter, where it appears that she's balding. People are saying Stephanie never posts videos of Bella unless it's just the back of her head. And listen, guys, don't make me come on here and defend my Pookie. Pookie shows us those kids nonstop all the time. So like a literal crazy person, I slowed down the last few of her videos that have Bella in them to see like if this is true. Because if it is true, like that's horrifying for sure. But I don't think it is. Honestly, I think it's just a light patch of her hair. Like, it's just the color of her hair is light. And when the light reflects off of it, I think it appears that way. I don't think that's a bald spot, though. And, like, she has bangs as well. So, I mean, if you have little kids, you know by the end of the day their hair is just a mess. I think it's partly how light her hair is and then also just, like, a weird part. And then
these clips did not feel spontaneous. They felt rehearsed, calculated, as though Stephanie knew the audience would ask questions if she disappeared completely, yet also knew too much exposure would risk revealing what she wanted to keep hidden. This girl hasn't been featuring so much in Stephanie's videos just of late. It seems like there was a reason as to why she was no longer appearing. The critique here is sharp and inescapable. Just as Milo the cat vanished from Stephanie's content once his untreated condition grew too obvious to ignore, her daughter now seems to have been intentionally hidden. And while some might argue that reducing a child's screen time could be protective, the pattern here suggests otherwise. This is not the shielding instinct of a parent suddenly deciding to prioritize privacy. This is a concealment born from fear of exposure. Rather than seeking medical care for her daughter's hair loss or psychological support for her visible stress, Stephanie appears to have chosen the easier, removing her from the frame, silencing her presence, and controlling what the public is allowed to see. To the audience, the absence is not invisible. It is unsettling, and it carries with it the heavy stench of repetition and cover-up. The silence around the girl's disappearance speaks louder than any explanation could, and it forces viewers to confront the suspicion that Stephanie is not protecting her child at all. She is protecting herself, her image, and her fragile content brand. The fallout of this neglect is already unfolding, not as speculation, but as lived sentencing for the children, whose daily existence has become an exhausting punishment they never deserved. They are confined in a single motel room for more than half a year, living their formative years surrounded by adult dysfunction and instability, with no private space to breathe, no consistency of routine, and no escape from the constant turbulence. Every morning begins not with the calm of childhood, but with shouting, tension, and the lingering effects of Drew's betrayals and Stephanie's desperate attempts to control the narrative online. Instead of schoolyards, playgrounds, or bedrooms of their own, their world is four walls, fights, and a live stream audience watching their lives unravel in real time. Their childhoods are not simply paused, they are being stolen day by day, hour by hour. The toddler, still in the stage of life where safety and affection should define his every moment, shows his stress in heartbreaking and unmistakable ways. He has been observed hoarding food, tucking it away in corners as though he cannot trust that tomorrow's meal will arrive, a survival instinct usually seen in neglected or institutionalized children. He paces endlessly across the cramped floor, his tiny body betraying the anxiety of a boy who has learned that acting out or crying will not bring comfort, only frustration from the adults who are supposed to protect him. His small attempts to gain attention, reaching for Stephanie, tugging at her clothing, seeking her eye contact, are brushed aside as she turns once again to the live stream battles, prioritizing digital clout over physical care. These behaviors are not quirks, they are survival strategies that reveal a toddler already shaped by neglect. The eldest daughter, who should be laughing with peers and exploring adolescence, has been forced into the heavy role of caretaker. She babysits the infant frequently, her youthful energy consumed by responsibilities that belong to adults. Worse still, when her exhaustion shows or when she falters under the impossible weight, she is met with scolding, sometimes even public cursing, as though her inability to meet these adult expectations is a moral failing rather than the inevitable result of stolen childhood. Stephanie herself admitted to raging at her eldest, live on camera, a moment so disturbing and humiliating that CPS was compelled to intervene, marking one of the few instances where private pain finally breached into digital facade. This is not a one-off mistake. It is a repeated cycle of identification, anger, and trauma that leaves scars no less permanent than those on her sister's scalp. And now, with the visible hair loss of her middle child, the possibility of further CPS involvement looms larger, hanging over the family like a storm cloud ready to break. What was once dismissed as speculation has become undeniable evidence, a medical and emotional symptom etched into the child's body. The very sight of her daughter's bald patch could force authorities to acknowledge what viewers have long suspected, that these children are trapped in an environment of cumulative neglect, where emotional wounds become physical ones and every cry for help is drowned out by the harm of a live stream. Public backlash is no longer simmering quietly in corners of TikTok. It is intensifying, spreading across platforms as more viewers demand accountability. Once sympathetic supporters now openly call for investigations, wellness checks, and even the removal of the children from what they view as an escalating cycle of chaos. Clips circulate with captions of outrage, duets dissecting the evidence, and comment sections swell with voices demanding that someone intervene. The monetization that once sustained Stephanie's content empire, the subscriptions, the gifts, the engagement, appears to be faltering under this pressure as audiences grow uncomfortable finding neglect dressed up as resilience. And Stephanie, sensing the change, has shifted her tactics. She posts fewer live videos, recycles old drafts to maintain visibility without vulnerability, and carefully avoids the unscripted moments that once defined her brand. Her retreat from real-time transparency is not growth, it is invasion, a survival strategy for her content. Even as her children's suffering becomes too visible to hide from the audience she built on their backs. Judge's analysis. This case is not merely one family's tragedy. It also shows the problems that exist within influencer culture as a whole. TikTok's system rewards attention, drama, and relatability more than it rewards genuine stability or responsible behavior. The reality is simple. The more chaotic the live stream, the more views it receives. The more shocking the drama, the more subscribers pay to watch. When children are placed in the middle of this kind of content, the risks increase because their struggles are turned into a product for the audience. The bald patch we've seen on the child is not just a health issue. It represents what happens when parenting is turned into a performance. The donor dismissal was not a single parenting choice. It shows a repeating pattern of minimizing children's feelings and prioritizing control over them in order to create content. The missing appearances are not random either. They appear to be an intentional decision to hide the problem from the public eye, not to help the child. Together, these examples send a warning that when children's pain are treated as entertainment, the audience becomes a participant in that harm by watching, clicking, and sharing. We have to ask direct questions. How many more children will be harmed before platforms step in with real rules and accountability? How many carefully polished, resilient stories will collapse before viewers stop rewarding dysfunction as entertainment? And how long will child protective services be expected to step in after damage is already visible, while platforms continue to profit from the attention these harmful situations bring? The verdict. Based on the evidence, the verdict is clear. Stephanie Jenkins has crossed the line from struggling mother into exploitative performer, from resilience into recklessness, from parental care into parental neglect. Her children are not props. Their suffering is not content. Their stress is not strategy. The bald patch is evidence. The donor dismissal is testimony. And the missing appearances are concealment. Together, they form a case too strong to ignore and too dangerous to minimize. But the final judgment does not rest with Stephanie alone. It rests with us, the viewers, the commenters, the jury of the digital courtroom. Do we continue to click, to subscribe, to enable? Or do we draw the line and say enough? Enough trauma disguised as entertainment, enough children sacrificed for clout, enough families dismantled for views? Comment your verdict below, because in this court of TikTok, the jury is always watching, and your judgment carries weight not just for Stephanie Jenkins, but for every child growing up under the shadow of a ring light and a live stream.